Hey, this is Mike Gilbert from Flotsam and Jetsam, and you are listening to Focused on Metal.
Focus on
Hey, Metalheads, Scott here.
And Richie.
And as promised, back again for yet another week. That's right, like a rash, we are back. Great guest this week, as promised, Michael Gilbert from Flotsam and Jetsam. And these guys, they just keep going, too. I think, like, you talked about last week about bands that keep consistently putting stuff out. And they're another band that have hit their stride over the last couple of years of just go ahead, putting them out. And it's always good stuff, too, And they're kind of a more of aggressive stuff, but still, they're always right there, which is great.
And Eric is still a fabulous singer.
Yeah.
He really, I know Michael says it in the interview, he thinks he's the best singer in metal.
Uh-huh.
He's one of them. Yeah,
and he's just kind of, he's definitely an underdog. He really is. But, because when you talk about singers, he isn't always the one that pops to mind. You know what I mean?
He stands out for me because of the genre that he's in. He doesn't sound like Chuck Billy, and he doesn't, in a way, you could lump him in with Joey Belladonna. He's got that clean voice.
Yeah.
And the other guys have got the growly, lower register.
Yeah.
And Eric is more of a clean singer like Joey is.
Yeah.
And I don't think he gets enough plaudits.
Yeah.
I think he still sounds amazing, and he absolutely kills on this record.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple of things on this record, he sounds like Rob Halford. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And the other thing is, and you mentioned it in the interview too, is Ken Mary, which is,
machine.
He is, but the thing is though, he's been around for a long time, and to be popped into this band, and I'm sure a lot of people thought that, oh, well, he's going to do the one album and they'll change out. You know what I mean? And he didn't.
No.
Which is great,
No, and he helps produce this one because he has his own studio and he's a producer in his own right.
Yeah.
I can't understand why a guy like that wasn't plucked into any of these other bands over the years, like a Gene Hoglan.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like, this guy's a fucking amazing drummer.
Yeah, he is, definitely.
He's more known for hard rock. Mm-hmm. I know him more for Alice Cooper. House of Lords, of course.
Right.
I'm a massive House of Lords fan. But after that, didn't he do an album with David Ellison years ago? You had Chris Saunders on the show. I think he drummed on that. It was really early on when I started. It was more of a metal album.
Is that
I think he was on that. It might have been actually the first show I did.
I'll have to look back and look at the credits on that.
Yeah, I think Ken Mary was on that.
Oh, okay.
He's probably done a ton of other stuff
I've never heard. A long time.
Wow. I'm racking your brain now.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that in a long time.
Yeah,
I think what I'm going to have to do. Speaking of that, go down a rabbit hole. One thing I did do during the break is I realized that I need to get my shit together about these things, stomp boxes, because I've got a ton of them, to the point that I forget all of them that I have. And it's similar to, like, I'm going to have to catalog my music, because I guarantee I'm going to end up buying something I've already got and forgotten I have. I probably have already done it, for all I know. If not for Amazon telling me, you already bought that on, and giving me a date. But I started cataloging all of these. I've still got a whole big pile I haven't gotten to yet.
From how long?
But I've got...
still in the box, never opened?
I do have a couple that are still new in the box, never opened.
Oh, I have to have that, and it just sits there for years.
But I'm up to like 130 of them. The thing is with these, right, is, and especially now, it's the tide has changed with stomp boxes. Any of you guys out there into stomp boxes? It used to be that, you go get your, you get your Boss. So this one is, which one is this? This is the 30th anniversary of the pedal that's sitting in front of you, the Metal Zone.
Oh.
But now you have a lot of companies that will make just a short run. So it might be a big company, big in the pedal world, and do like 50 of them, and that's it, and they'll never make them again and stuff. So it's like if you really want that sound, you need to hop on it, or it's gone. Some of these anniversary ones like this, Boss is going to they'll do a run for a year, and that's it. And if you missed it, there's one that came out earlier. It was announced in late 2019, I think, and it was a collaboration between Boss and Macari's in England to do a tone bender, and they put it out, limited run, and it's limited because of the components. So they only had enough of the components to build a certain number of them. And I think it retailed for something like $150 or something. Boss is never really exorbitant. If you were to go on Reverb and look now, there are people selling those for $3,000 to $4,000, and they're getting the money because they are, they're like short runs now for a lot of these things. So, things like this. There's one behind you that's by Solo Dallas, which is essentially the sound of AC/DC. That kind of the secret sound that really made their sound. Those are kind of limited, hard to come by. And so, yeah, there's things like that. I was like, holy crap, I forgot.
The pedals I want are the ones on my bike.
Yeah. I was looking, I looked at one, because I'm like putting down the serial numbers and all that, and I'm like, holy crap, I got serial number 2 of this pedal. How the hell did this happen? And so it's, but I still, I've got a pile of them. I still have to, just so I know what I've got, what sounds that I've got, so I'm even, okay,
so
this distortion.
So you need to show me before I go the one for $3,000, because I can take that and you mightn't miss it and not sell it.
But it's, it's an addiction. But I do have to get my crap together with some of that, just so I actually know what I've got. Because for some of these, it's like, oh yeah, I do have that sound. Like I keep thinking, oh, I don't have something that sounds like a tone bender. I don't have that kind of fuzz. And it's like, oh yeah, I do. I've got one that's like a Mach 3. I've got one that's like a 1.2. It's like, yeah. Anyways, that was a rabbit hole. I'm back. Wow.
I didn't add much to that.
All because I couldn't remember if I have that LFO.
I don't know shit about any gear.
You don't want to. It's a bad habit.
So what do we want to talk about? Debts.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of limited runs, let's talk about human limited runs. It's been a kind of a nonstop death fest for the last month or so.
We were off the air for 2 months. Jeff LeVar was the first one.
Yeah.
We had him on the show once for his
great. And speaking of effects, I mean, Jeff, at one point, Jeff was talking about selling me one of his Boss delay units. I just didn't have the money, and then he decided to keep it in the family. But yeah, we were actually having a conversation back and forth, and he was going to actually. I would have been really happy to have that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, one of the Roland Space Echoes that he had, which is they're a beautiful piece of gear if you can get them, and then to have one that was Jeff's would have been even better. But yeah. Speaking of gear,
yeah, and then my cow, that shocked me.
Shocked me too.
Actually, didn't know it shocked me, but the Mike Out one did.
It shocked me enough that I forgot it happened. So then it shocked me again when I had to remember that it did. Yeah.
I met him. I interviewed him twice, and
you met up in Manchester, right?
No, I met him in. I'll tell you the story.
Right. You were down in New Jersey.
I went to New Jersey for Gigantour.
That's right. I was supposed to go to Manchester.
And it was Megadeth, Amon Amarth, Suicidal, Metal Church, and Butcher Babies. And a friend of mine I got to know a bit over the years, PR guy, Smitty, great guy. I think he left the PR business for a while. I think he's trying to get back in a little bit now. But I'd worked with him a little bit on some of the bands, and I'd called him the odd time. Really, really nice guy. And I told him I was going down to meet a friend of mine there, and we were planning on going to the show. And he, of course, said, "Richie, I'll look after you. I'm going to the show. I'll make sure you have tickets and everything. Just call me when you get there. I'll look after you." So, of course, we get there, and he brings us backstage. Mom would go into Metal Church, into the changing room. So he brought us in, and all the band were there, and we ended up talking to all of them. Mike, hanging. We must have been in there about half an hour, just shooting the shit with all of them.
Yeah.
Jeff Plate was still in the band. We're talking to Jeff, chatting with Mike, had a beer with Mike, Kurt. Couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
Honestly, couldn't have been nicer to me. And the show was amazing, and I got to meet Dave Lombardo. I got to meet Mike Muir. Just one of the best shows personally I'd ever been at. Like, if you want to meet musicians,
Yeah.
And Mike was fabulous. And when they brought out the what was that record they brought out? There was a couple of new tracks on it. I can't even think of the name of it now. I think it came out last year sometime.
From the Vault?
Yeah, I think that's it. And they put a couple of new songs on it.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the new songs were
Signed by Mike Howe?
excellent. And the new songs were excellent.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Mike for that. And then, of course, you hear he passed away, and then the story comes out about what happened, and I'm like, fucking hell. And then, what can you say? It's like tragic.
Yeah.
Will Kurt continue Metal Church? I can't see it. Personally, I think he said before in interviews that this is it. When Mike was back in the band, this is more or less it. I can't see Kurt going out now and getting a new singer. They're going to go back to Ronnie Monroe. Can't see that either.
He's got a solo album coming out.
Presto Ballet. Oh, his solo record, yeah. But fuck, that shocked the shit out of me. The Dusty Hill one from ZZ Top.
He's been old for a while, though.
They're old.
And I was talking to somebody about that. They were asking me about that the day it happened. And
I think he was 72 or 73 years old.
And I said, if you go back and watch the Netflix documentary, which is an excellent documentary, by the way.
The one Sam Dunn did?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's all on the early years, most of it.
It's really, really well done. I think I've watched it about 3 times now.
Yeah.
And you can even see there that he's kind of feeling it,
Yeah, but the first guy in ZZ Top I would have thought had kicked the bucket would have been Frank Beard, with all the problems he's had health-wise and drugs and all that shit.
Yeah, well, I think his saving grace is that he doesn't have the weight on him.
I think the drugs might have done something to help that. But, yeah, that's true. But I think it did rub some people the wrong way that you had a band like that and it's only ever been them.
Uh-huh.
And the guy literally just died and they were out doing shows. And some people I know got annoyed at that, saying, like, the guy's just dead.
Uh-huh.
And they're in a sticky situation. They signed contracts and all that. And
sure.
Really had to get
kind of like when John Entwistle died.
Yeah, but again, it's how does a band end well? You think, oh yeah, when one of the, Led Zeppelin, when John Bonham died, that was it. Zeppelin were done.
Yeah,
more or less. The odd show here or there, but they were done.
Right.
And people might have felt, oh yeah, ZZ Top has always been, it's been Dusty, Billy, and Frank.
Yeah.
It's only ever been them for 50 years. And now the band are going to
I think, though,
continue.
In a way, it's a good example, but in another way, you look at Zeppelin, and they were not. You look at ZZ Top first. Let's look at them first, and it's you're right. It's only been them until you go really way back, but it's only been them. But they've always had they've kind of always been creative. They've always been evolving. They've always, been doing this, again, writing new music all the time, and whether or not people buy it or not, whether they want to hear it at shows or not. They keep writing new music and all that. And then if you go back and you look at Zeppelin, though, I mean, they were, their height lasted for years, but they definitely were hitting a spot where even if Bonham hadn't died, they could have just disintegrated at any point. You know what I mean? They were all kind of doing their separate things, and you listen to some of the last album, and really were the writing inputs, and Pagey wasn't there really. He was off in his own little drug land and stuff, and so would they have really continued that much longer? Maybe not. I think for me it hits harder with ZZ Top that again, they were only the three of them, and it is interesting that go ahead and continue to play shows after he died, definitely.
Yeah. And then, of course, you Charlie Watts today.
Yeah.
80. All these guys are, they're all getting up there. It's. I used to buy Classic Rock magazine. I used to get it every month.
Yeah.
And I stopped because I didn't think the magazine was up to snuff really anymore. Mm-hmm. It was rehashing the same old shit.
Yeah.
It was like fucking Zeppelin every 3 months. Let's have a look at Physical Graffiti. I'm like, you fucking already did that, And
got a guy at work who looks just like the father on the cover of Presents.
What I was finding with that magazine was that it used to in the beginning that it had a news section like harangues and all that, like you'd have all the this is happening, this band's going on tour, their recent album. The first couple of pages were all obituaries.
Yeah.
They'd have like a 2-page spread, on like Dusty Hill. I think Dusty Hill's on the cover, I think, of the new one.
And they have that with I get vintage guitar, and when I first got it, you might have in the beginning, with letters and all that, and you might have one panel.
Yeah.
That was an obit. And now every month you have 3, 4,
4
5
pages.
guys.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus.
But what you'll pick it up, and of course there'll be one or two big guys will die, and then they'll have like all these separate paragraphs and all these lesser known producers, and that's the world we live in now. All the music that we grew up on now, these guys are fucking old and they're fucking dying.
Yeah.
It's just a fact, and people you might look up at them as being, oh my God, these guys are gods and they're immortal and everything. And it's like, no, they're not.
No.
They're just a little bit older than we are, and they're all starting to kick the bucket.
Yeah.
And it's happening more regularly.
Yeah.
And it's going to get more regular. Because, I know when Ronnie James Dio died, like it was 2010, that was kind of a bit of an anomaly back then, 10 years ago. Having a big metal guy die.
Yeah.
Fast forward 10 or 11 years, there's like one every month now, or a big one, and one every 2 months.
Yeah.
And then there's other guys that are passing away. It's like, oh fuck yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Sucks getting old.
It does. It sucks. Go see him if they come around. I've said this before. I've been saying this on the show for years.
Yeah.
They mightn't come around again.
Yeah.
I never saw ZZ Top. I'm never going to see Z, and I love him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to see him now.
Yeah.
And that sucks. I can say that I did see Metal Church at Mike Howe.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see Cinderella with Jeff LaBar. I never saw the Rolling Stones. I was never that big a fan. You probably saw the Rolling Stones.
I did see the Stones.
Yeah, I never did.
Yeah.
But all you got to do is look on social media. The outpouring for him, for Charlie, is incredible.
Well, he's an interesting guy in that, he comes from a jazz background, and it's really kind of like Phil Rudd. It's what he didn't play that was so freaking important, and nobody else would have worked in the Stones like Charlie did. And it's kind of like, as much as Chris did a great job with AC/DC, nobody slots into AC/DC like Phil Rudd does either. It's just this thing that happens, and that's I always compare Charlie to Phil Rudd. They're very, very similar to me in kind of that approach of the not play things. Although the jazz part of it is more akin to what Bill brought to Sabbath. Is another person who came from the jazz realm, and so you kind of have that time moves back and forth thing, and that's the key. So Charlie is it's. I mean, you knew it was due at some point.
Well,
one of those guys is going to go.
Well, didn't they do shows recently and he wasn't there?
Yes.
I don't think people expect him to die.
Right.
But he didn't play the recent shows that they played.
Correct. Yeah. So
they're going to continue.
It sucks.
They're going to continue.
I will say, when it comes to merch purchasing, your eyes would just be so wide at the amount of merch that those guys move at a show. I've never seen anything like it. And we've gone to Maiden shows. It's not even close. Mm. It is not even close. To see people with like these giant bags, like Target bags kind of thing, full of shirts, jackets, leather jackets, like the amount of merchandise that they sell, and you look around and everybody's got bags and bags of stuff. It's like, holy crap.
And it costs a fortune.
It's insane.
$50 a shirt, probably.
It's insane. I couldn't believe how much of it I was seeing. They're like a machine. It's amazing. They outdo Maiden on it. And Maiden, I think, is pretty spot on with it. I'm still kicking myself. I didn't get that limited shirt that time. Allison, I know you were there. You got one. But, that... And actually, you know what? I missed the last one, too.
Yeah, but you have a pedal worth $3,000 in front of you. You should be happy.
They always have these great, like, spot-on shirts and things. And Kiss is not as much now, but they were a merchandising machine, too, live. They've kind of culled it down somewhat. But the Stones were, holy crap. Yeah. Insane. But who isn't insane is Flotsam and Jetsam. So I think we should probably... listen to your great chat with Mike.
Yeah, I love Mike.
Let's get off the death. We'll get on the Flots till death instead. There you go. How's that? How's that for a most metal segue right there?
Nice.
All right, let's do it.
Focus!
Hello.
Is that Michael?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, it's Richie. How you doing?
Hey, Richie, what's up with you, man? Everything's good here.
Yeah. Where are you, in Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix, sweating my ass off.
How hot was it there a couple of weeks ago?
Man, we were up to like 117, 115. It was brutal, man. Like I have a pepper garden out in my backyard, and it almost killed it. A bunch of trees and stuff. Yeah, man. It's been a really brutal summer, but right now it's only like 100. So like we're got to get my jacket on for that.
It's only 100.
That's ridiculous. I don't even know why we live here. It's insane.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. What's the worst weather you've ever performed an outdoor show in?
Oh, my God. I remember this show way back in the day. It was like 1988. I think we did some festival in New Hampshire. In the wintertime, it was outdoors. And that was hands down the worst. That was the worst like performance because my fingers were frozen. I couldn't even hardly move. Teeth were chattering. Oh, my God. It was bad. You don't want to go out there with like a down jacket on or a leather jacket. It's just, it's all constricting. But yeah, that was crazy. I wish I could remember the name of the festival, but so long ago. But I do remember the show.
Yeah, because I'm just outside of Boston.
Oh.
Yeah.
How far is that from you? How far is...
New Hampshire is like 10 miles, the border, from my house.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Yeah, so I know how brutal the winters are up here.
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all. I don't like the cold weather anyway, so like that was even worse for me.
What about playing in heat? Have you ever like suffered heat stroke playing live because it's been so hot?
No, nothing like that. I actually like it when it's hot like that, especially doing shows. I think we did a show at this place in Philadelphia was called the Empire Club. I don't even know if it still exists or not, but that was the hottest show that we've ever done. It was, it was a mid-sized club. It was packed, and I think temperatures were like 125 inside up on the stage. It was brutal.
What about a travel story, Michael, where the weather was really bad and you're traveling between gigs, maybe on a bus, and you thought, geez, we're never going to make it. Maybe you're in a blizzard or something like that. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've got all kinds of stories like that. Not so many weather stories. I mean, we've been stranded before because of the weather, but nothing like, our bus has never had any issues going through weather, but we've had other issues with it. We've a couple occasions. One occasion we were going through New Mexico, and the front wheel, not just the tire, but the whole front wheel came off, and it turned sideways in the wheel well.
Like
And that was really scary for us. Luckily we had a really good driver, and he had just probably 2 or 3 days earlier stopped smoking, so he was wearing this nicotine patch on his shoulder. And we all got off the bus, and he ripped that patch off, threw it on the ground, and lit up a cigarette. Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. We're lucky we had a talented bus driver,
Yeah. Have you ever played a show sick and been able to pull it off, and you didn't think you'd be able to do it?
No, not. We've done tons of shows when we've been sick. It's just it definitely sucks, but you got to pull through it. We've never canceled anything because of sickness or anything.
Yeah, you've been lucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I asked a couple of musicians that question, and some of them, they just don't. They got to do it. It's work. You got to get up on stage and do the gig.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we signed up for, man.
Of course, I'm talking to you now, and I don't know whether you knew Mike Howe from Metal Church, who passed away yesterday.
Yeah, that is awful news. I didn't know him, I knew him just from meeting him a couple times, and we've done tons of shows with Metal Church, and we've done the 70,000 tons with them and everything. So, yeah, it's I don't even know what to say. Just reading stuff like that, but just tragic. The guy's ultra talented, and I don't know what happened. I've been searching for what had happened to him. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless on it.
What about Joey Jordison, who passed away today? Did you do shows with Slipknot?
Yeah. I don't know all those guys. I only know a couple of them, but I didn't know Joey. But that's another. I guess he had some. I forget the name of the disease he had. He had some sort of inflammation of his spinal cord or something like that. I don't know what the name of it was, but I don't know if that was the cause of what happened to him today. But again, another huge talent lost. It's just sad news. It's awful news.
Yeah. What musician passed away, Michael? And it might have been recently. It might have been years ago when you were a lot younger, and the musician's death really affected you. Because the one that stands out.
Yeah, there's two of them that really did. There was, Randy Rhoads. You ever have those incidents in your life? Okay, we'll just take the World Trade Center. When that happened, you probably knew. You can remember exactly where you were at when that happened. When you heard the news of that, I think everybody on the planet can vouch for that, and they know where they were at when that incident happened. The same thing when Randy Rhoads passed away. I still remember where I was, and I remember hearing it on the radio. And I just saw him a couple months prior to that. They played Phoenix on the Blizzard of Oz show, and that was the first concert I ever went to.
Wow.
Yeah, so that one hit hard, and then Eddie Van Halen. He was such an influence on me, and growing up, and I'm a huge Van Halen fan, and just it's like you see these guys up on stage, and you're like, and when they pass away, you know, they're larger than life when you see them, and then you think that they're going to live forever. You know, they are, you know, with what they've put on tape and what they've released in their music and stuff like that, that you think their life is just going to go on forever, but it doesn't, you know.
Yeah.
So it's shocking, like, when the reality sets in, it's just shocking.
Yeah. 2 guitar players, Michael.
Yeah.
I think for me, the one that hit me hardest, that I don't play an instrument, is Neil Peart, because Rush are my favorite band.
Yeah.
That was
a shocker too. Like, we didn't even know that was, like, it was coming up on it, you know, like, he obviously knew something was going on.
Yeah.
But they were very good about keeping it out of the public eye and making sure that, you know, he was, that people didn't really know what was going on with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That bums me out. Holy crap, that bums me out.
Yeah, it's just that, you know, you had Jeff LaBar, who played in Cinderella a couple of weeks ago, and then you had Mike Howe yesterday, Joey. The older you get, I think it's one of the things you have to deal with in life is people dying. Like, even if people close to you are musicians that you've been listening to for years, you mightn't really know them, but, you know, you just have to deal with it, and people deal with it in different ways.
Yeah, you know, it's almost like losing a family member, you know, because we grow up listening to these guys, and, you know, you listen to their records and you feel close to them, you know, you feel like they're part of your family, and then when they pass away, it feels like a family member.
Yeah,
you know?
You're right, because I've certain bands, like Rush was one, Megadeth, Metallica, you know, every couple of years, Megadeth especially, like they used to release an album every 2 years. You can nearly set your clock to it. And, you know, and then, of course, Dave had cancer, and he's okay now, but I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me here, you know, all these musicians that I love passing away. I'm like, I don't want any more of them to go, you know.
No. Yeah, it's awful, you know.
Yeah. So, Michael, let's get away from all of that now, and we'll get into the new record. Okay, Blood on the Water. All
right, that sounds good. Right. We got to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah, Blood in the Water. Right. Now, I spoke to you last year, and we spent about an hour talking about one of the albums that came out in '91, and I'm having a brain fart here now. I can't think of the name of it.
When the Storm Comes Down.
Yes.
I think that's the one we were talking about. When I wanted it remastered.
Yes.
Remix, yeah.
I can't believe I forgot the name of it. But we spoke about that, and you were talking about writing the new album at the time and hopefully getting everything together. I want to, in general, talk about hunger and motivation when it comes to writing new music, because when it comes to the thrash metal bands, and I'm talking about yourselves and Death Angel, Testament, Overkill, you always still seem to have the hunger and the motivation to do new music. And people might say there's a lot of other acts in other genres that they mightn't be as motivated to do it, and there's longer gaps between records. But all of you guys seem to be able to do it. So where does that hunger for you come from?
You know, it's a lot of things. Right now, I would say with this last record that we did, Blood in the Water, I would say the hunger is coming from, you know, the lineup that we have now. We have a different member in the band, a new bass player, and it's also coming from, you know, the 2 prior releases. You know, in the business, they always call it the trifecta. If you make 3 consecutive records that are really good or great or received really well, that will get you to like another level of success. I'm not going to say it's going to be like you're going to get to like Pantera success or Green Day or anything like that, but it's going to get you noticed by other listeners, other genres of listeners, you know. So we had really rave reviews about the self-titled record, which came out a few years back, and then great reviews on The End of Chaos, which was the last one that we released. So we had this drive to try to beat those 2 records, you know, and we kind of thought that it was going to be difficult to top The End of Chaos, our last record. So the hunger comes from that. Like, it's like we can't have two releases that we're really proud of and then all of a sudden, fall off of what we're doing on this one and make a bad record or a mediocre record. So the drive was coming from, we can't make a mediocre record. This record has to be as good as the last one, which is The End of Chaos, or even better. And I think we did it. We're so proud of it. I've gone back and listened to it. I've never gone back and listened to any of our records. I've never done that, at least for over and over again. But this one I'm so proud of, what everybody did. And I've listened to it a bunch of times, and I can't find anything wrong with it. I'm super happy with it. I'm just like, I'm proud of all the rest of the guys in the band. I think they all did a great job. They played their instruments like top-notch musicians, which they are.
You brought up something there, Michael. I was going to ask you that you don't really listen to the records that you've done in the past. What are you comparing the new music to then? Because you want it to be better. Surely you have to listen to that and compare it and say, nah, I don't like that idea. I don't think it's as good as it could be. Does that happen at all?
Yeah, okay, so like, what's weird for me when I write, I'm almost in like a bubble. And to hear a song outside of that bubble, as a listener that's never heard the song before, they come in and listen to something that I wrote. It might sound a little odd because in my mind, I think things are flowing great, but they're really not. It's really all over the map and it's choppy and there's no song flow. I mean, musically, it might be cool. It might be cool parts put together, but as a song, as a whole, as a song, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But me being in that bubble, it helps me to have an outside ear go, hey, what are you thinking here? This sounds weird to me, And whereas in the past, there was only a couple writers in the band, where now everybody in the band contributes. Everybody's a songwriter and has, really, really valid points to make about song flow. So it's not about musicianship or anything like that. We can all play, but the real task is can we all write a song together? I think in the past, Flotsam has lacked that a little bit. And, it's not that I'm not proud of any of that. I'm very proud of all the records that we made, except for the one we're talking about that needs to be remixed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That can cause a problem sometimes when everyone wants to write, because if you get precious about what you've written, that can cause friction. Has that happened in the past? Like, you might write something and think it's great. I don't want anybody to mess with it. And then when everyone starts writing, you can get jealousy can set in. Has that happened?
Totally. And that has happened all along the way. But realistically, though, I mean, that's how ego-based BS, what it is. When you overcome that, you realize that, it's not somebody that's taking a shot at you. They're not coming in and going, oh, you suck, man. You wrote this part, it sucks. They're not saying that. It's all in the goal of, hey, let's change this up to make the song better. If that's the way it works, if I write a part that I love, but I get voted out and it ends up being for the better of the song, then, man, I'm glad somebody caught it and called me on it, because you got to do what's best for the song. And that's one of the things I get asked on some of my interviews. Just what do you say to newer musicians that are starting a band, or bands that are getting ready to make a record? Or I always say that leave your ego out and try to work with each other. Everybody's got legitimate additions they can do. Everybody's got an ear. We all love music. We all have the same goal here.
Now, you brought up that you don't listen to your older material. So when it comes to writing for a new record, does that mean you don't bring any old ideas into the writing and it's all fresh?
It's all fresh. We always say that too. Hey, we wrote 40 songs in the last record. Let's use some of those for the new record. And we never do it. We always just sit down with a clean slate and just start writing. And me and Steve have been saying that for for 5 years, and then, you know, like this last record, fresh, clean slate to start with. And I'm glad, because I think the songs have gotten a lot better, especially with Ken Mary coming to the band, a new drummer. I call this guy the Swiss Army knife of musicians, because he does everything. First off, he's a monstrous drummer. Second, he can write lyrics, he can write music, he can produce. He's a funny dude. He's cool to hang out with. I mean, so yeah, total Swiss Army knife right there. He's got it all.
I want to talk a little bit about Ken, because I know Ken from the hard rock world, House of Lords, Alice Cooper.
Yep.
I know he can play this stuff, and he's an absolute monster on this record. When I look at Ken, and I listen to him now, I'm thinking to myself, why didn't any other thrash metal band over the years hire this guy like Gene Hoglan got hired? Because the guy is an absolute machine.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And, you know, he came to the band when the previous drummer, Jason Bittner, got asked to join Overkill. You know, I was like, yeah, dude, you got to go do that. You know, you're from New York. They're from New York. Those are your guys. You go join that band. You know, that's a great opportunity. So Steve knew Ken from playing in the studio. They worked together in the studio. So Ken sent a video of one of the tunes. I think it was Hammerhead or something like that. And I watched about 15 seconds of it, and I'm like, that's our guy right there. And he was only supposed to do a tour with us. And then, you know, the first time I played with him, I'm like, dude, if you want to be in this band, you're more than welcome to. We want you in this band. And he was like, okay, no problem. Let's do it.
I remember talking to Greg Shafria, and he was in House of Lords with him. And he did albums with Andy Johns. And Andy Johns in the 70s and 80s was notorious for getting rid of drummers and bringing in his own guy, because he didn't think they were up to scratch. And Greg told me that when Ken came into play, he said to Ken that he thought he was one of the best drummers he's ever worked with in the studio. Timing. He said his timing was impeccable.
Yeah, well, totally.
And you got to
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. Now, when you're doing the album now, this album was done a little bit different, wasn't it? Because of COVID, that you all had to do your parts in separate studios. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've been doing that for a while anyways. Since Ugly Noise, we've been doing that. Okay. So the problem with that is, you know, you got two ways of writing songs. You know, you could write songs like we do and pass files back and forth and then delete files and say, this one sucks, this one's great, pick and choose. But the other way of writing would be everybody sitting in a rehearsal studio and playing. And that's got a huge advantage, because you hear the anger, you hear the energy when you're all together playing. So a disadvantage for recording in separate studios is, how do you capture that energy and get it on tape? You know, like that's the difficult part of it. So you don't really know what you got until you mix it. And that's the thing. We captured it, and I don't know how we did it. I think it's just because, like you were saying before, we're hungry and we're angry. You know, all that stuff, all the stuff that goes in the cauldron to make a metal album. That's what we became.
Yeah, you see, from the outside looking in as a fan, I you know, there's all these classic records were done. They were recorded in the studio. That, you know, the bass player and the drummer record their tracks, and then the guitarist would record their tracks, and then in the end they do the vocals and the solos. And what I'm wondering about albums that you're doing now is, are they all done that in that order, or are they all done at the same time? And then it's all mixed. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're trying to build it from the ground up with the rhythm section, then the guitars, then the vocals, and then the solos. But you seem to be doing it a kind of a, not backwards, but kind of a different way than what I'm known. You know, I'd know.
Yeah, there's so many tools out there. When I write, and I know when Steve writes, we both do the same thing. We'll we'll figure out a riff that we want to play. You know, you be noodling around on the guitar, and you play something cool and go, oh, shoot, I want to make a song out of this riff. So you dump it into Pro Tools and you put a click track down and you play to the click track. And then, I've got this tool called Easy Drummer, which all I got to do is once the guitar's down, a scratch guitar part, if you want to call it that, for 8 measures, I can drag some drums over into it and test, what kind of drum beat that I want. And it's super fast and super easy to do. And once I find, what I'm looking for, I can hear the energy in it and what I want, then I'll go ahead and finish writing the song out, at least the basic structure of it, and then I'll send it over to Ken. And, Ken's always free to do whatever he wants, but he pretty much sticks to, the same, at least the same vibe that I send to him. And I know he does the same thing with Steve, too, because it's capturing the energy, and it's capturing the anger. So, anger, yeah.
So you don't do demos in the traditional sense when you're doing albums now, is that right?
Yeah, and Steve Connolly, the other guitar player, and I talked about this extensively. A lot of guitar players will do a scratch track, and then they'll go back and re-record. Well, there's something about that you cannot capture the same, when you re-record it, you can't capture the same, initial riff. I've tried it on all of these last 3 records, and I end up using my original tracks that I wrote the song with, which would be quote unquote scratch tracks, and they always contain some element. I can't describe what it is. I can't tell you what it is, but it's just something that makes it right. It's just hard to describe, but Steve and I have talked about it. It's an entity, but it's hidden.
I think Michael, it might be the feeling, the newness of it, maybe in the beginning, that you're not trying as hard, you're just trying to see what happens, and it's subconsciously coming out of you. Maybe that's it.
Yep, more fluid. Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me about the first song you wrote for the record, because that normally sets the tone for the whole record. Can you remember which one it was?
Wow, man. I think the first one that I wrote was Too Many Lives. Okay. And that's a crazy song. I mean, especially for a guy like Eric A.K. to sing over, because I'm using a lot of dissonant chords and just crazy key changes, and it's a nightmare for somebody to sing over. But, I think that we have the best singer in metal, so AK tackled it, and he did a great job on it. He wrote a chorus line that, and it's just insane. They were comparing him to Halford on it, So, yeah.
What's Eric getting from you guys as a song? Is he getting the whole instrumental, and then he works on the melodies and the lyrics on top of it? How does all that dynamic work?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. We turn it over to him, and that's even before Ken puts any drums on it. We turn it over to AK, and he'll either, if he feels like he can write something over it or sing a melody line over it, he will. And if he doesn't, we just never hear back from him on that song. It's kind of funny.
He just ignores you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's the king of that. When he doesn't want to do something,
I will say that his vocals on this album are amazing. And I don't know how he does it year in, year out. Because what is he now? He must be, mid-50s, Michael? That be right?
Yeah, he's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure his exact age, but yeah, he did this. It's the same thing for me. I listened to this record back as a fan, and I'm like, wow, AK, holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
There was blood in the water. Something was in the water. It might not have been blood, but it was something that he was drinking.
Yeah. The song I absolutely love on this is Cry for the Dead. It's kind of this slower song that kind of builds for the chorus, but his vocals on that are fantastic.
Oh yeah, yeah. That song gives me chills when I hear it. It's a lot of people think it's related to some of the COVID stuff that was going on, but it was. I try not to dive too much into AK's lyrics because I like people to have their own perspective of what he's saying, just as I do. I don't ask him because I don't want to. Have you ever had a song that you've listened to over and over again? You thought it was about this, and then all of a sudden, the artist reveals what it's really about, and it kind of ruins the song for you,
Well, I've had some guys on, and some singers on who've written the lyrics, and I'll ask them, and they won't want to tell me because they'll say, "Well, what does it mean to you?" And then I'll tell them, and I say, "Well, you relate to it that way, then. So I'm happy if you relate that way to the song."
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
When Eric does the vocals, is he pretty quick at getting them done, or is he very hard on himself?
He's hard on himself. He's very particular about it, and super hard on himself. Like he'll show up for vocals, and some nights he'll kill the whole song and just blaze through it, do all the harmonies. And other nights he'll show up and sing one note and go, "Nope, I'm going home. It ain't happening tonight." He definitely knows his boundaries. But I have to say, I think he's the best singer in metal, and even non-metal stuff. The guy is just a raging killer.
What's he like at taking guidance? Because you and Steve are guitar players, and then you got the bass player and the drummer. You guys play instruments, but with Eric, he's really the singer, and he's the only singer. So, can you guys go and say, "Can you do this? Can you try this?" Or do you just leave him be and he'll work it out himself?
In the earlier days, we were all like, "Yeah, leave us be, and we'll do it our own way." But in today's times, with our lineup and what we've got going on, he is open to anything, which is a strength in my opinion.
Yeah. So, who's changed the most since you joined Flotsam? You or Eric?
Oh, me. Definitely me, because I used to be so angry back in the day. I want to fight. Maybe it's because I'm short. I got short man's complex, I think. So I just wanted to fight everybody. Well, what are you looking at? But that hurts, man. I got my ass kicked 4th of July. This is a good story for you. I got my ass kicked 4th of July a couple of years ago, and we were leaving for Europe on the 5th of July. So I go downtown Phoenix, and I start mouthing off to a bunch of kids. There was probably 6 of them, me and my buddy. And I ended up getting my ass handed to me. I did okay against the first 2 guys, but then I got tackled, and I got knocked out in the middle of the street, had a big old scab on the side of my face, and I showed up at the airport the next day. And those guys, they just looked at me, and they didn't even ask. None of the guys even asked. They just looked, just kind of shook their head and were like, "Whatever. Gilbert."
Oh, Michael.
So that was I'm never fighting again. That was my last fight I'm ever getting into. I got beat up.
Yeah. So I just got a couple of questions before I leave you go. If you were to go back now to the beginning of your career and give yourself one piece of advice in music, what would you say?
One piece of advice?
Yeah.
Lose the ego. It's a hurdle. It's an obstacle in the way of any song that is being made. We do this to listen to songs. There's great musicians out there, and if you have the right song, your great musicianship is going to show on that. And you can show off all you want, but you got to have that. You got to have that foundation of a great song first. So always be versatile with your bandmates and communicate.
Yeah, but surely, Michael, if you want to be great, you have to have an ego.
Well, okay, so I do have an opinion about this. The ego looks great in the press, and the press eats it up. Nobody wants to hear, "Oh, this guy's just an average dude. He's got a day job." Nobody wants to hear that. We listen to music because we want to escape that stuff. We listen to music because we want to go into a different reality where it's not the same as our day-to-day lives, you know. So I think whenever you give some interesting press like that, like egos and stuff, I think that's always good, you know. But when it comes to writing stuff with your band, instead of fisting it out with each other, you know, definitely communicate.
When you sit down to write a Flotsam record now, and you're listening to music, do you like just listen to metal, or has your musical tastes wildly changed since you joined Flotsam in the 80s?
Man, I listen to a lot of music, but when it's time to make a record, it's I guess a good analogy would be game face, you know, with an athlete. You know, what does an athlete do to get ready for their meet, for their track meet, or their high jump, or whatever they're doing? They train. Same thing with metal. Like, our training would be to listen to that stuff, listen to angry stuff, and get in that mode so you have your game face on to do it.
Do you keep up with what Death Angel and Testament and Overkill and all these bands are doing? Like, would their new stuff motivate you, saying, wow, these bands are putting out great albums, we got to step up our game here too?
Yeah, you know, you always got to know what the competition is. And it's not really competition, you know, but it's more like you got to know what's going on out there and what people are listening to in order, you know. I mean, you can do some crazy music stuff that's off the wall, and you're not going to get to tour with Death Angel or Testament. But if you're writing metal and you're keeping it in that genre where it's angry and it's hungry, like you're saying, then that's when you know you go out with these other bands that are doing stuff that's like what you're doing. So, you know, there's a little bit of marketing in that. There's you definitely have to keep up with what's going on around.
Now, Michael, you brought up ego there, and the press lap all that up, and that got me thinking about something. I wanted to ask you. Every band, when they bring out a new record, or nearly every band, they always say that this is the best album we've ever done. Okay, now I'm not going to talk about this one, right? Because I think this album's great anyway. You don't have to tell me that. Have you ever in the past done press for an album and said it's the best you've ever done, and you know deep down that it isn't?
No. I have never said that, and then knew that I was telling a fib, you know, or didn't believe it. Yeah, I definitely. If I said that about one of our records, yeah, it's because I'm proud of it. The only one that sounds really weird to me is the third one, you know, and it just needs a remix.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think over time the way you think of albums changes. That you can only do what you can do at that time and do the best you can do. That's the way I look at all of this. It's like anyone's job. You know, you're in work that day, you can only do what you can do that day and do the best you can do. And in a couple of weeks' time, you might look back on it and say, yeah, I could have done that better.
That's a way better answer than what I said. Can I use your answer?
You can. So what have we got coming up now, Michael? With COVID now opening up and for shows and things like that, what's coming up in the future for you guys?
Well, August 17th, we head out for a small 10-day tour of the southwestern United States. And it's kind of a warm-up because in January, we're supposed to be going out with Accept in Europe for 5 weeks. So there's that. And then we've got East Coast dates right after that that I can't really talk about those because those haven't been announced yet. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we're going to be on the East Coast when we come back from Europe, and then heading back and doing the rest of the cities that we didn't do on this 10-day run. Hopefully we have South America coming up as well, in Mexico, and we're looking at Australian dates right now too. So.
Wow. You played in Australia before?
Never. Just because I'm afraid of spiders, man. And I heard the spiders there are like a pretty good size. So
I think they've got some of the deadliest animals on Earth down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite country to visit, Michael?
Oh my God. I'm going to say Austria.
Okay. When did you go? When did you go there the first time?
The first time I think we were there with Megadeth in 1988, I think.
Okay. Okay. What did you like about it? Just different, cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, it is. And I'm not a big fan of the cold, but just like just the countryside and everything. The cities there were just cool to hang out at. I don't know. I just loved it. I just thought it was great.
Okay. Are you someone then that when you hit a town, you don't want to stay in your hotel room, you want to go have a look around?
No, I want to go and look around. That hotel stuff is for the birds. I want to be out and experiencing what's going on in the city, and I want to definitely be doing something for sure. Okay.
Hey, Michael, do you want to give out all the social media sites where people can get in touch with you or the band?
The social media is just Flotsam and Jetsam on Facebook, on Instagram. Flotsam and Jetsam, you can search that. What else? Our website is flotstildeath.com, FLOTSTILDEATH.com. You can pick up merch and stuff. We constantly have new merch coming in, and that's really about it.
You know now your next album is going to be very hard to top this one, because this one is stellar.
We're going to do it, though. I have faith in this lineup that we got. I have faith that we're going to match this, or it's going to be even more brutal.
And you're going to try and do the every 2.5 year album cycle? You're going to try and keep that going?
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Well, Michael, I'm going to leave you go. It's been a pleasure talking to you again.
You too, Richie. Thanks, man. And definitely. I love talking to you, man. So hopefully when we get on the West Coast, we can hang out a little bit. And yeah.
If you get up my way, I'll text you. Hopefully I can get back and say hello to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, Michael, have a good rest of the night. Try stay cool, okay?
All right, Richie, thanks, man. Nice talking to you, buddy.
Yeah, take care of yourself. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, there you go. Richie's chat with Michael Gilbert. I've lost count of how many times Mike's been on the show. I think it's maybe the 4th time he's been on with us. Anyways, again, big thanks to Mike for joining us once again, giving us an update of what is up in the Flotsam and Jetsam camp. And also, do yourself a favor, go out and get yourself your own copy of Blood in the Water. And while you're at it, lots of new stuff being announced over the last couple of weeks. 3 big ones in particular, some box set action going on, and there's one that BMG announced for Overkill, the Atlantic year, so be on the lookout for that one. That's seems like it's a little hard to find here in the States. Over in Europe, it seems like it might be a little bit easier, but anyways, a lot of good stuff on that one, well worth digging and trying to get yourself a copy of it. And also, if you head up to focusonmetal.net, you can also check out the news we did to announce the Sepul Nation, so a box set from Sepultura. I know Richie's probably going to be digging that one. And also, my favorite one just announced, the Symbol of Salvation Live. So all of the stuff that's available for that one from Armored Saint, you can go up to, again, like I said, focusonmetal.net, go over the news page, and there's the whole write-up on everything having to do with Symbol of Salvation Live. Get yourself that one as well and support the boys in Saint. I can say that I ordered my vinyl and CD DVD the day that puppy was announced. Actually, right after I posted the news item for it, I ordered my stuff up. So that's it for this week. And I believe next week that we will be hooking up with an author. Did a great book of his time on the road with a couple of bands. I think that is what is in store for next week. So hope you're looking forward to that one. It's some great stuff that Richie had a great discussion with him about that. But anyways, for this week, that's it. There ain't no more. Stick a fork in it. This puppy is done. So for Richie, myself, and everybody else here at Focus on Metal, have yourselves a great metal week. And until we talk to you again next week, remember,
Focus on Metal.
Everything else is insignificant.
over. Go home.